This is a photo I took from one of the bird hides in the water park. I like the reflections there in the water and the sort of distant view you've got with those buildings on the horizon. Foreground's a bit boring, could do with something there, but I think I'm going to have a go at this one. I've got all the usual colours: ultramarine, lemon yellow, Payne's grey, alizarin crimson, raw sienna, burnt umber and light red. Got the 3 brushes, the large one Ransonite, 3/4 inch flat and the number 3 rigger. Any scraping out, I either use the knife here, painting knife, or just a bit of plastic credit card. I prefer to use, well, to be honest, I only ever use the Cotman watercolours. This one's Payne's grey. They're quite cheap, but I'm quite happy with the results you get from them. We've got some tissue in case I want to take any paint off the paper. I've got the water jar here. There's some masking fluid there that I never use. I've got my easel. I fix it on a piece of 9mm thick plywood using these clips. It's 15x11 Fabriano Watercolour Paper. And there's my towel that I use when just checking off the excess water off the brush. That's how I control the water on the brush here on this hake. Otherwise it's a bit of a nightmare when you first start to use it, but once you get the hang of it, I much prefer it to a normal brush. So there's the photo I'm going to use for reference, so I'm going to crack on with it. So I'm going to start off, as always, giving the paper a good soaking with some clean water. Main reason I do this is because it's only cheap paper and it prevents it from cockling. See, when I used to use the good stuff, I'd just wet the sky. Say if you come down to about 1/3 of the way up, and just wet the sky area, and then do that, and then by the time you've gone to do the foreground, that's all flat, and this stuff it's like the corrugated iron. It's absolutely horrible. At least doing it like this, by the time you've got into the couple of 2 or 3 minutes into the painting, it's stretched and you just refix it and you got a flat surface to work with. So that was just raw sienna. Then I might just put on some ultramarine. Bit of ultramarine. Just here and there. And that's more like the sort of gap between the clouds. And then a bit of alizarin crimson, Payne's grey, make a nice cloudy colour. And then just stick a few little clouds in. Don't go crazy and cover everything up. Like most stuff, it's best left subtle. So that's all I'm going to do for the clouds. So first I'm going to put in the distant trees. There's a couple of buildings in there which I might just suggest with a piece of card. I'll show you in a minute. Horizon's about 2/3 of the way up, so just put it in. Don't fiddle about with it. Just as long as make sure you get it level. That's the important thing. And just varying it slightly. Just do the subtle changes in colours. And then, rather than just having one long line that's the same height, I like to just make it slightly higher somewhere, like there, just makes it more interesting. So that far in, at that stage now, see how the paper's stretched slightly, so I can just refix it. Pull it tight, refix it. You know, flat surface. Now I'm going to take the card, piece of card, and just make the hint of a couple of buildings. Now it's still damp. In fact, no, I'm not. Before before that dries, I'm just going to pull down some reflections. You're not going to see much of the brush there, so I'm not too worried about that. That'll do. And then just, it's still wet, so I'm being careful not to touch the paper. Now this always works best where on the darker bit part. Obviously I'm going to go through to the white of the paper now, so I want, you can only just about see that. I might try and make another one a little bit more distinctive. I'm going to press a bit harder. You can see a bit more of the roof there. And I'm just going to do a couple of windows. Yeah, maybe a little building in front of it as well. That'll do. It's only one of the hints. So, I'm just going to get rid of that off the brush. Clean brush now. I'm just going to go into the lemon yellow. And then just sort of, just a bit of green grass over in that corner. And then it sort of gets a bit muddier as it gets towards, getting into burnt umber. Touch of ultramarine. And I'm just leaving that little bit of reflection there, so I'm not painting over that. And this sort of comes out. I'm just going to come out to about there, because I don't want to cover up too much of the reflections. The burnt umber. And now onto the sort of muddy bank now on this left hand side. Just clean the brush so I can get a bit of lighter sort of raw sienna. You see how it's now a bit lighter in colour. I'm constantly looking at the reference photo, see where I am. That'll do for that. Now next we put the tree in. Now that's gone dry, so I'm not going to be able to put the reflection in straight away. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to make sure it is dry, because I'm going to re-wet it. I'm going to re-wet that area, but I want to put the reflection of the tree in. But you can't wet it while the paper's still wet, otherwise the paint will go everywhere. Just look along it like that, you can see where the water's where it's wet and where it's dry. You see the light reflecting off it. Now I can see from here that's dry. So I can go like that. I'm confident it's not going to go anywhere because there's no shiny bits. So next thing I'm going to do is the little tree. Now I want this dry brush now. So I'm going to clean the brush, scuff it up. I'm going to go into a sort of, not many leaves, I don't think there's any leaves on this tree, so I'm just going to go into sort of twiggy colours, sort of raw sienna, burnt umber, maybe a touch of ultramarine, and then just sort of just using just the corner. I'll just make that one a bit bigger. Always, if there's two trees, always make one bigger than the other one. It just looks better. I don't know why. And I'm just going to leave enough so I can put in some, use the rigger to put some trunks in and branches and stuff. I don't want to block these in too much. So I'll switch to the rigger now, number 3 rigger. Go into the same colours. I need a bit more water for this because the paint runs out very quick on this brush because it's so small. So just get it on something like that. I mean, I'll just sort of start at the bottom and then just pull up and just sort of hit and miss, lift it up as you're going up, and it looks like the branches are hiding behind the trees, behind the leaves or whatever's on there. A bit more paint. Stick another one, another big trunk in there somewhere. And what I might do, switch back to the 8 brush. Not much water. I want to dry it so it's fairly dry. Still got the hairs quite fried, and then go back into these colours, and then just right at the bottom of where you've put the trunks. Just dab it down so they don't just look as if they're floating in the air. And this is also a bit of mud now on the banks. Bit of mud on the banks. Now I'm just going to very simply put some reflections in of those trees, but I'm not going to do what I just did. I'll just give it a quick wet, and then just go into the basic colours, just the basic colours of what I just used, and just pull them down very simply. And then just a few little. And you see it's not particularly detailed. I might just put a little bit of trunk in there as well. Again, just trying to keep it pretty subtle, but just to give the impression that there's something there. Leave it at that. You can see it gives it that sort of, because I wet it, you can see how you get the soft edges. If I hadn't wet it, you'd end up with hard edges, and it just doesn't look quite as nice. Now there was a bit of land coming over from this side. Clean the brush got a bit muddy, so just clean the brush, back into the raw sienna, see how it goes light now. Now for the foreground. Now in the photograph it's a bit, well, I'll stick with it for now I think. I mean I can't really do too much, but I don't want to cover up too much of this area because I want to keep the reflections there, and I'll just suggest a bit of land on this side. So it was a bit greener, but not too much. I mean I haven't used a lot of green then, so I don't want to keep the colours harmonious. If I just give it in fact I'm not going to use any green at all I don't think. Just a very quick sweep. I mean, if you just sort of flick up just a few little reeds and stuff. And you can even, if you use the card, a little bit of card here, you can even do a few little stones and pebbles by the water's edge. And then if you overdo it like I often do like that, just paint straight over it, don't worry about it, until it looks a bit more subtle. That'll do. You can always use that as well, just to flick up a few bits of grass, reeds, whatever's lying on the water's edge. It's always nice to put a bit of wildlife in. Doesn't I mean, it's no effort at all to put in a couple of birds. Again, switch to the number 3 rigger to bring it to a point. Where should we put them? Flying out of the trees, somewhere around here, I think. Nice and small. And then staying with the same brush. Somewhere down here. Just pop your signature. And that's another one. Another one finished. So this is the finished painting. Just a nice simple composition. Like I say, from the one of the bird hides in Kingsbury Water Park. So if we take another quick look at the photograph, you can see I've kept most of the composition the same. I've kept the foreground bit to a minimum, and just simplified it somewhat. You can see the nice reflections in the water of the trees, and I've tried to keep a sort of similar effect just by wetting the water first, and then just using the rigger just to try and suggest some of those trunks and branches. These little details, these houses on the horizon, just they're not much when you look at them, but they just give the viewer something to think about. Well, thanks for watching. Keep practicing. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll see you again soon.